Now, last week we've been pleased with a lot of Cities Skylines 2 gameplay. The core community have played the game a lot, and I'm here to give you a very brief and distinct feedback of what we can learn from these videos. The core players have actually built different cities, showing off a lot of things in the game that potentially we haven't seen from the feature focus videos before, so we're going to dive right into the pros and cons I take out of it. But before, let's have a little message from the sponsor. Special thanks to our sponsor of today's video and the sponsor of the channel. Instant Gaming is a wonderful platform on which you can get your favorite games to a great value. Here you've got 24/7 support, you've got over 10,000 games at your hand, and you can find them very simple via a search bar, just like our Planet games over here. Or if you fancy, have a look at Cities, for example. Everything is here, including all the DLCs you wish to have. So special thanks again to Instant Gaming. Link is in the description. If you want to grab a game, please click there and have fun. Okay, we're going to start with a couple of negatives before we then go into a lot of positives. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that the struggle is real. A lot of people from the core community obviously are super detailed builders. Now, that said, in the current build of the game, and this is a huge disclaimer, this is a beta version of the game. It's not the full release version. There are hiccups, there are details missing, and maybe even pieces. But as it stands, there are not that many ploppable assets to detail your actual city. There is a little issue in terms of making sure that things look different, because you literally just have a couple of trees and the road upgrade tool. That is it. The second major point I saw was that the problem with terrain levels, and that's something I also struggled with in preparation for Gamescom, is super hard to achieve. We still have a little bit of an issue here where the buildings are not necessarily perfectly aligned with the terrain, and you can get rid of it by, adjusting the terrain, but it's very hard to see because at the moment you don't really have a highlighter or any kind of better infographic to what it is. So this really was something I found a bit problematic for myself, and I saw them struggling, even though they did some speed builds as well. Now, the third thing I thought is it's a good thing and a negative. So this is going to be the segue from negative to positive, but I would start with this as a negative point. You really have to plan your city ahead, like a lot. I had this feeling too, but I couldn't really tell because I'm not such a pro builder when it comes to Cities Skylines anymore, because it's been too long that I played the game properly. But if you look at those who are really, really good at it, like Sylv, Infrastructurist, $2.20 and so on, you really have seen that they struggled, not necessarily because they didn't know what to do, but because they needed to plan everything ahead, whether it's being roads, energy, and also trees, because the trees do take a lot of time to grow, so you don't even have like ploppables, but those ploppables you also have to plan in very early on, and since they do also have an effect in terms of noise reduction and stuff, it's better that they have already been growing. So yeah, let's see what the future holds. And I'm not going to talk about the graphical issues or whatnot, because that's unfair. There have been some, but it's not a full release version, so let's not better talk about that. However, let's take the trees as an example and go into the builds. One thing that I find super positive is that with all the different builds, you can really tell that there's a huge variety in what you can do at the moment. So the different builds you see from different people really turned out super different in terms of how they laid out the city, in terms of what they opted for. So really good to see that there already is a little bit of variety in there, despite the fact it's only a beta version and the full vanilla game. You never know what's gonna happen with mods or not. So that's very good to see that the vanilla version already offers such a creative playground for players, especially those that are very capable of playing. So that's that. And the second positive thing we just have to mention is road system. The road system now really being tackled by the pros. You can tell it is super powerful. They have really pumped out insane layouts in no time and really, really lovely stuff. It seemed really that this overhaul is everything people wanted and everything we wanted, the community wanted, but also the pro players wanted. If we only would get, move it now, and the world would be good, the world would be awesome. However, This also means that we can solve a lot more issues in comparison to the past. Things look instantly way better, and yeah, I'm just like very happy with this. The next positive thing I have to say is, and this is something you could really tell how much the zoning has improved with all the different zoning options now. The impact of the change of residential and also offices is super visible. And one thing in specific, which I'm talking about in the next point, is the way how the zones now look. So first of all, we do have the switch between the American or the US style and the European style. I'm insanely happy that those seem to go very well with each other, but there is a lot more to say about that. So first of all, it makes your city a lot more natural. I remember that people have been building this with a lot of ploppables in the past, like these growables as ploppables, to achieve a certain, suburban look and an urban look and the central city look and stuff like that. But now you can really zone this specifically because we have the low residential, we've got the medium residential, but then again with row houses and not. So very, very good stuff. A lot more control over how you shape this with the growables. And I was already having the feeling that this is a super good change and a super nice impact. But now seeing these people in action, how they zone these areas and how they turn out to be looking in the end, man, that looks really fantastic, and I'm super happy to see. The last point I want to quickly talk about is basically the industrial zoning. It's really good. The industrial zoning is fantastic, and not because it's different or anything. I think the look of the industrial zoning is a lot better now. It really feels a lot more like these modern days industry. It's not as dark and dirty and smudgy anymore. It's like really, really nice and really solid in terms of how it looks and specifically how it integrates into the different areas, I really love that. It's so much more powerful. Okay, but we have to talk about more than only residential zoning and just in general zoning. The next point I want to talk about is the way how the different industries in general, because we also have like farms and stuff, now actually go into the game. And we have, we have that with the industry DLC in the past, but now as this is being a part of the game as a core mechanic, it looks almost instantly better. I remember how people have been faking all these fields and corn and whatnot in the past with like with the brush, when we had the brush options, they were doing these things, and that was super nice, and it looked good, but it wasn't really part of the game. Now that you can really make sure that you have some crop farms, some chicken farms, some forestries and stuff like that, this is really cool, and it really adds a lot to the building, and it really adds a lot to the visual style of your city and how it develops. Speaking of, the next point we got to talk about is the milestone system. I'm gonna call it system, I guess, because it really seems like a lot more thought out this time around. So it's not only based on habitants or inhabitants, it's based on XP and what you've basically built. So you can already reach a milestone with only making a layout of your city, which is really cool to see. I saw that in Sylph's video specifically. Making all the layouts and roads and stuff gains enough experience to really go into the next milestone of the city. Why is this so much of a positive thing? Well, actually, if you have played cities in the past and you wanted to lay out your city, at some point you need to get people in, first of all, to reach the next milestone in order to unlock certain buildings you would need already for your infrastructure. Now you can finish almost your entire infrastructure for a, well, let's say decent first step city before you need to get people in. And that is a huge pro because you can plan out things a lot better. As I said, in the negative, you need to plan a lot more. You can really see that Colossal has really took this and gave us options to deal with this problem, So this time we can plan our city ahead and also gain experience from that in order to build buildings or road assets that we wouldn't have access had before, without having residential people or like inhabitants in general. Now we can do this without. So I feel this is a super, super good change in terms of how you start your game without even having money unlocked or whatnot. So I'm really talking about the actual game. So this is something I found very interesting because I always found myself back in the position to disable money at the beginning of my Cities experience a couple years ago when I, dropped back into the game because it always was so annoying to wait for all the stuff to unlock and blah blah blah. So I played it this way. But this time around, you don't need that, and you can do things differently. And I found this very interesting. The next bit I want to talk about is specifically the way how the infrastructure tools in general work and tie together. I really had the feeling that this looks a lot better, specifically with City Planner Place. He had some very cool way of integrating the rail layout later on. Unfortunately, I couldn't reach out to him to ask if I have permission for the video, so I have not the footage in here, but just watch the video if you want to. So that's the way to go. But it's really good to see how you can use the road upgrade tool or the upgrade tool in general to put the different layouts on. And I love the fact how much easier it is now to interact with public transport only roads and also with the existing layout. So you can do a lot more about your existing network. And I really remember that was a pain in the last game, especially when you played vanilla. There was almost no way other than completely destroying an entire chunk of your city in order to make room for the upgrades you wanted to do. For example, if you wanted to get in the railway later on, or a tram, or a bus line, like for example a certain bus lane that you wanted to have specifically only for bus and so on. That's really, really decent. And I think for a conclusion, and this is very much needed now, I gotta say that all these gameplay videos definitely did confirm what my feeling was at the beginning, and I think this is a very good and positive sign, simply because I've been a little bit rusty, and I haven't been playing Cities that much for almost 4 or 5 years or something. Just for those who don't know, I actually, before I started my YouTube thing, I played so much Cities Skylines you can't even imagine. This was my go-to game. I have countless hours in Cities Skylines 1, but at a certain point when I started YouTube with Planet Coaster, that just got the better of me and I only played that one, so I kind of dropped Cities, and then I came back to Cities a lot later. So for me that was like a huge step from the more or less vanilla plus X game to a highly modded with a lot of DLC games a couple years ago. And this is why I think I have a very good view on this game in terms of what is vanilla or not, because my hardcore Cities Skylines experience is from the early days of Cities Skylines, and so this is the actual comparison you need to draw. And I feel like this is such a good feeling now that this game is overwhelmingly better in so many aspects than the first game. So the core foundation of the game is absurdly good, and I'm not even praising this specifically because I like the game or can already play that. It is really like because I had the same feeling preparing for Gamescom, but only a little bit of time was given to really do it. And so all these videos now confirming my feeling makes me really hopeful for the game. Yes, we talked about some of the negatives and we have to address them. And also we have to look about what is going on with the graphics in the future, because some things in there have to be fixed, definitely. But nothing to worry about as of now. We can worry about this if it's still part of the release version, but even then it's nothing that can't be fixed. So yeah, my conclusion is I'm very hopeful, and now it's your turn. Have you watched all the videos? Have you been positively surprised? And also be completely transparent and honest. What is your biggest concern? What is really your biggest concern? Let's use this as a channel to really talk about this, and maybe also reach out to Paradox and so on to mention those things, because they are very good when it comes to feedback. So that's really, really good. And just go nuts in the comments. Tell me your positives, your negatives that you took out of all the gameplay videos. And then I'll talk to you in the next one. Be sure I will actually cover all of it. So we will have also a video talking about the feature focus videos as a conclusion to them. And as soon as there's anything new to share, I will do so too. So if you're interested in Cities Skylines 2, make sure to sub to the channel as well, because that's going to be a huge part in the future. Until then, have a good time and goodbye.